Linea could be one of the biggest airdrops in the entire year, and I don't want you to miss it, so make sure you watch till the end of this video. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Linea, which is a layer 2 ZK rollup, and I'm talking about it because I think there are a few things that I think are worth noting, especially when it comes to potential airdrop. Now, we have actually talked about Linea on the channel before. I have actually made a guide on how to bridge to the Linea, so you can watch that if you ever wanted to get your funds on the Linea chain. It's quite easy to do so. Go to a bridge like Finance, where you can basically bridge your Ethereum from any chain like Arbitrum, Base, Darknet, etc., and you can go directly to Linea. Now, Linea is a Ethereum scaling solution. It is what's known as a ZK rollup chain, and as a layer 2 chain, it requires Ethereum because it's built on Ethereum and has Ethereum security in its consensus. Now, one thing that I thought was pretty interesting was when I took a look at some of the funding, and you can see here we've got some of the biggest apps around, some of the biggest chains, I should say, with the likes of Arbitrum, Optimism, and we know that they've launched and have a fairly high valuation recently. We also saw the same thing with Mantle, and the Mantle token is also trading now as well. But if we look at some of these ones at the top here, these are some of the chains that have actually got some of the largest funding, and it's so interesting because you can see Linea at the top with $700 million of funding. Interestingly, Linea is actually built by a team called Consensus, and they also are the ones who built this orange fox wallet that we all know called MetaMask. So I think it's really interesting because if Linea is able to kind of raise this amount of money, then I think these VCs are going to want some sort of value back, and they're going to get this in the form of a token. So the question is really, are they going to do an airdrop? And I think everything in crypto has a token. So I'd like to think potentially there could be an airdrop. And if there is one, it's going to be a pretty big one given the fact that they've raised this amount of money. It means that they've got a lot of capital to develop a really thriving and big ecosystem. And I think it's really important that you and I take advantage of this by potentially doing some activity in order to get one of these airdrops. I think we've seen the case with airdrops in the past, the likes of Optimism and Arbitrum, quite big airdrops. Everyone is speculating on Layer 0, Darknet, and ZK Sync nowadays, and I think Linea is one that's probably a little off the radar, and I think it's probably one that's going to be similar to ZK Sync. Now, I have to admit, at the moment, I think ZK Sync do have an advantage in terms of their ecosystem, but I think Linea are making good strides towards that. And I think you can see this by just looking at the total value locked of all of the different chains. You can see Linea here, which is around 41, rank number 41. Of course, ZK Sync is quite a bit higher than that, around rank 22, but I think this can change quite quickly. And you can see Linea in the past 1 day, in the past 1 week, 60% up in terms of TVL. That is pretty much higher than any other chain that's on this list at the moment. So it's clear to see that people are bridging over to Linea. There are some apps that I think are worth using, and they are some of the ones here. You know, we've got SyncSwap, KyberSwap, Gamma, PancakeSwap. These are some fairly decent apps that are successful on other chains. And I think it's really just a matter of time before we see some of these chains like Linea have some really game-changing apps. At the moment, I don't think they do, but I think the plan is pretty simple. Go on PancakeSwap, go on GammaSwap, go on SyncSwap, go on Velocore, go on Kyber, use some of these apps, do some swaps, provide LP. You know, if some of these are CDPs, maybe mint a stablecoin. If some of these are lending, you know, lend out some assets if that's what you want to do. I think it's important to know that these apps come with their own risks, so I wouldn't have too much capital on some of them, especially because they are fairly new. But I mean, with the likes of PancakeSwap, we know PancakeSwap has been around for a long time, and you know, you could do some swaps there. Essentially, just show that you're interacting with the ecosystem, engaging, and basically doing some economic activity. If we actually look at some metrics, I think it's really interesting that you know, there's around 300,000 users already, so quite a fair amount, but I think this is still small when you compare it to the likes of the other chains. And what's really interesting is actually that most of the ETH that's actually bridged in is just a tiny amount. So if you're able to bridge in a little bit more, like let's say 0.1 ETH, you're already in like the top 30,000, top 40,000, and I think that kind of puts you at an advantage. Now, one thing that did come out recently was this Mirror article, and Linea, this is written by Linea, and essentially they talked about this Voyage XP, a token of gratitude for contributing to the growth of Linea. And essentially what they're saying in this, and I'll leave a link to this in the description below, but essentially what they're saying is that they have these tokens called Voyage XPs. And essentially these are tokens that will be bound to your wallet. You can't transfer them out, you can't sell them, you can't do anything with them. But these tokens are kind of a way of identifying some of the activity that you've done on chain. So this is a new program, and I think it's pretty important. I wouldn't fade this, to be fair. And so essentially what Linea are going to do is that they're going to have some programs, DeFi events, entertainment festivals, and all sorts of stuff. Basically lots of things for you to do. And when you do them, you're going to get these Voyage XP tokens, which will kind of show evidence that you've kind of done certain tasks and done certain things. And they have this entertainment festival, which I'll show you in a second, that's coming out. It's out right now, actually. And I think it's probably worth doing some of these things to get these XP tokens so that you can showcase that you've done some activity. Now, in order to basically get started with this, they have got this attestation protocol to basically show that you're authentic, that you're not a seal bill, that you're doing things the correct way, and it's basically a registration just to basically show that your wallet is you're one person, you're not using 1,000 different wallets to basically farm this potential airdrop. I think it's pretty clear that a token is coming. And so what you need to do for this is you need to head over to this application called Click, where you basically connect your wallet and you mint this attestation, which essentially represents your identification. It takes about a minute or so. And once you've done that, I think you can head over to this entertainment festival where they have a variety of activities and games and things like that for you to try out. Now, to be honest, I'm not really much of a gamer. I don't really like all of this stuff, but I think, you know, you may find something interesting here for you to do. Like you might find the Linea naming service, you know, something interesting. You know, you get points and XP for this, and that might be something that is worth doing. So, for example, if you mint some of these Linea naming service domains, like this one that I've got here, it doesn't cost too much, around $5 or $6, but you know, that could be something that gives you XP, that basically shows that you've done something on the Linea network. I think otherwise, head over to some of the DeFi apps and try some swaps, do some activity, and I think you will find that you'll get some benefit there. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. You know, Linea raised $700 million. I think they've got a lot of money to spend. It's quite easy to bridge. There's lots of apps. I think they are growing. TVL is going up, and they've got this Voyage XP's system, which I think is probably not something to fade. So that's all I wanted to cover today. Basically just a guide on some of the things that you should do if you're interested in getting this Linea airdrop, which I hope is going to be quite big and quite lucrative to all of us. We'll have to wait and see and kind of see how things go. But that's all I wanted to cover today. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section below what you're doing on Linea. Are you farming anything specific? Are you doing anything specific on Linea? I'm interested to know, and we'll be back with plenty more content in the near future.